Well, lady or gentleman, there's one concurrent viewer at the moment. Welcome to Mad TV Live. This is an interesting one tonight. Earlier in the week, I was interviewed by Beach's Motorcycle Adventures, and they're in a motorcycle company in United States. And so anyway, they interviewed me. We had a long chat, about an hour. It covers a number of different topics. It might be interesting to you, may not be. But anyway, I thought I'd post it anyway. It's just something for those who want to listen to something a little bit different. So just give us a yell just to make sure the streaming's working. Those two viewers at the moment. Hello from Canada, Bob Smythe. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, that's good. And we're starting to collect a lot more people now as we come up to 8 o'clock. So I've been busily filming the Husqvarna 701 long range, and we've got some wonderful footage. A guy came along with me called Andrew Clubb, who's well known in the motorcycle media industry in Australia, and we had some great filming in the last couple of days. So really looking forward to showing that in the next couple of weeks. But it's a cracking bike. It's just a plethora of great bikes at the moment. Adam, hello from Mittagong. Yo. Thanks, mate. And we'll get this show on the road in a couple of minutes. So just to remind everyone, this is a pre-record, but I'll be looking at your written comments. Dave Cribb, got you from Tassie. Thanks, Dave, for coming on board. Yeah, so this is a pre-recorded interview done earlier this week, but yeah, I just think it's worth playing, and as I'm playing it, we'll during it, I can answer your written questions, and we might flip to live at the end of it and just have a chat. Mind you, I don't have my studio set up, so you're going to see my study. Great to see Paul from South Africa and Chris from Wales. So a couple of minutes and we'll get going. John from Cornwall. Thanks, John, for joining us. A good, nice international spread tonight. Tim Chubb from London. Thanks for coming on board, Tim. God, it's very international today. Yeah, the great thing about this interview is the guys from Beach's Motorcycle Adventures, Mike and Rob, we really covered some different ground, and some interesting things you probably don't know about Motorcycle Adventure Dirtbike TV and its origins and a whole range of different things. So it's good fun. Noel from the Philippines, Jason from Ireland, Mike from Greece, crumbs. Oh, Michael Harrison from Penrith, that's a bit closer to home. Bazza from Sydney, CEBU Touch Riders, Noel Mueller. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll kick off with our normal intro, and then we'll get into this interview. And at the end of it, I'll take questions if anyone's got them on anything that we've touched. Big Bike Adventures. Good to see you, Steve BG.
Motorcycle Adventure Dirtbike TV is proudly supported by Adventure Spec in England, Rally Raid Products, Giant Loop in the United States, Adventure Moto in Australia, and Adventure Rider Magazine.
Well, good day, folks. It's Rob Beach from Beach's Motorcycle Adventures coming to you with another round of the COVID lockdown Beach's audio adventures. Since we're not able to get out and do the things that we would like to do on the scale that we normally do them, we're sitting here dreaming about it. And I'm not the only one tonight, because up there in the Great White North, Mike, are you in the same time zone as we are even?
Sometimes I think you're in your own time zone, Rob. But yeah, we are in the same time zone.
Are you? Okay,
Yeah.
so you're on the far, there he is over there on the western edge of the time zone that we're familiar with here on the East Coast. In Thunder Bay, Ontario, it's Mike Knott.
Yeah, right on. I'm sitting here enjoying a tonic, a fever tree tonic, and gin. And I'm having a fever tree tonic, it comes out of England, one of the Commonwealth countries. Thought maybe I enjoyed that because we'll be talking today to Dave from Mad TV, who is also part of the Commonwealth. Welcome aboard, Dave.
Well, it's interesting you raised that, Mike. It's a terrible way to start. I'm a bit of a Republican. I want to separate. But anyway, and I'm one of about 50% of the country, but nice, good start.
Yeah, raise it up. Yeah, so Dave, you've got quite the YouTube channel there with Mad TV. Some really interesting stuff. How long have you been putting out some of your shows?
Well, I started about 12 years ago, I suppose. I was a dirt rider by trade, and did a lot of dirt riding. And then when I got to, I think it was about 47, I was a late starter into adventure bikes. The KTM 640 Adventure had come out. But while that was happening, I had kids, and I liked videoing the kids as they grew up. And then they got to the teenage years and they didn't want to be videoed. And I had nothing to video and enjoyed making films. And I'd started riding adventure bikes. And then a mate said to me, oh, there's this thing called YouTube. You should start putting stuff up on YouTube. So that's how I started. And yeah, probably about 12, 13 years ago, I suppose.
And did you have any experience before with doing video stuff, or just kind of like a lot of us? Yeah, you just kind of
no, not at all. I didn't have. It's funny, YouTube's a great place to learn because you get to know what people want, and some people are a lot better at it than me. But it's a good place to learn how to tell stories in video. Yeah, it's been good fun.
Yeah, for sure. And personally, I appreciate a lot of the videos that aren't so polished, that are more, because it seems more realistic. We're talking just the last podcast we were doing about some of the things to watch, and one of the channels like watching is Drive Mag channel, and they're I think out of Romania. Yeah, it's a similar thing. Very, very kind of not so polished, but seems more realistic. They seems like an average guy. Doesn't seem like it's the corporate body image.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, see, I got better and better at it, and I've been employed by motorcycle companies, Yamaha and KTM, and I've worked with Chris Birch, and he's a wonderful big adventure bike rider, one of the world's best. And but yeah, no, the thing I love shooting, I've just come back from shooting the last 2 days, is just getting on the bikes, going for an adventure, and trying to tell that story, and to try to put people in that landscape and provide them aspirational images. It's just a good feeling. And I just love making those images. It's good fun.
And how much does that get in the way? I've been on vacation just shooting because Rob's nodding his head. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing you raise. Now it depends on who I'm riding with and what it is. So the last 2 days we've been up in this beautiful country. We're doing a review on the Husqvarna, or we call them Husqvarna 701 long range.
Husqvarna
or Husqvarna. You guys call them Husqvarna. But yeah, so we've been doing that for 2 days, but I went away with a guy and he knew it was going to be, we're doing filming. So we would have spent each day probably, 3 hours filming. But when I go away on an adventure ride, I tell everyone at the beginning of the ride, if it's a longer ride, I'll say, look, I need a story a day. That's all I need, a story a day, and then I'll leave you alone. And there's that balance. And then I shoot on the fly, and I'm a fairly fast rider as well. So I can always overtake people, get in front, and then come back through the pack, provided they know that I'm going to do that. So there's a couple of give and takes, and sometimes, I know it's a long-winded answer, but sometimes when I'm, I did a filming of a thing called the Tenere Tragics, which is the Tenere 700. There's a group of like-minded people ride those bikes. and a lot of them didn't know me, and so I'm a little bit more sensitive to their needs because they're paying for that ride. And so I'm a little bit less directive, if you like. So it's horses for courses. That's the short answer to your question. But I know what to shoot. I mean, a lot of people just shoot a whole lot of footage and they're not shooting for purpose. So you've got to have in your mind why you're telling this story and what you're doing. And if you're not, you're just wasting time.
Yeah, I guess that's it's a huge part of it. Just like taking a picture instead of just digital photography has made us lazy a little bit, that you can take 4,000 pictures and who cares, you edit them later. And I try not to do that. I try to, okay, what's the image I want? And am I going to capture it, or is it just going to be okay and I'll just delete it later?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. So
the really interesting dilemma with that whole thing is when you're off on an actual original adventure ride, is that sometimes the story is evolving and you're not quite ready to catch it. It's not like you can simply redo.
Yeah. So you get around that. We get around that, or I get around that by having ready accessibility to cameras. Like I've always got a GoPro in my helmet. I've got a handheld GoPro in my pocket. I wear like a camera jacket, and I can undo that and get it out within seconds. And I've got a camera generally between my legs, a high quality 4K camera between my legs in a tank bag. And sometimes if, we rarely do it, but sometimes we'll construct it. If I've missed the front of the story, we'll go back and do it again or do some sort of thing just to contextualize it. But that's not common. Like when we're on the big adventures, like in India or Russia or whatever. Generally I'm just shooting that. There's nothing constructed.
Interesting. Yeah, because that really is a dilemma. Especially the interesting thing is for people that haven't experienced something over time. I mean, if you've taken a lot of rides and you've ridden in a lot of foreign places, you can kind of come around the corner and know that something here is going to be a little interesting. There's some, and the other folk are riding along with their mouths agape.
Yeah.
Just, oh, this is amazing. And it really is an interest. I understand what you mean about knowing it's coming in perspective, but
So what happens? There's another thing I do, and I really enjoy doing this, and I've done it in Russia, I've done it in India, is to through the YouTube channel meet people and then say, hey, can I come and ride in your country, and would you take me to your country and show me how you see your country? And that's a tremendous way, because you get around that problem of they tell you what's around the corner and say, look, there's this cracking lookout. And that would be a good place to film. So I have like a pre-meeting in the morning, just quickly, what's on today, tell us what we're doing. And so we kind of get around that. Yeah.
You're getting all professional and everything here. That's great.
Well, we're getting professional without making it look too professional. I don't want it too polished.
And how about like equipment malfunctions? It seems like the GoPros are fairly hardy. I like using a different kind of camera, but I recognize they're probably the best one in an industry.
Yeah, the GoPro is by far and away the best. The GoPro 8 and 7 now with their image stabilization are just fantastic. I haven't, touch wood, had any malfunctions at all. It's
because you've ridden in some places like India now, where humidity must have been, well, I guess it depends the time of year, although I think it's humid there no matter when you go.
No. Well, where we were, it's actually desert. It's incredibly dry. Like once you get up over that altitude, the clouds don't get over the Himalayas. So look, India, the times when I do have humidity, I have a waterproof bag within the bag. I use a Giant Loop product which is from America. Giant Loop actually support me and have for a long time. But they do a good tank bag, and I've got that wrapped in waterproof. But I haven't had any fogging issues or anything like that. No, it's been good.
Yeah, because of course you're on the road at that point. That's a good question itself. Is there any kind of support team or I'm sure you don't
No,
have a team.
rarely go with support. Rarely go with support. And some people have this view, like when I did the first big decent ride from London to Sydney, like everyone thinks, oh, you've got a support truck. No, everything we carried was with us. And and for the majority of times we do that. The only time we haven't is when we go into the centre of Australia, where it could be 8 hours before you got medical assistance, and sometimes you get up to quite high speeds out there. If you come off, you can be in serious trouble really quickly. And it's good just having the support, because it's just for excess water. But we do go into the desert unassisted. But to do that, like, you've got to carry your fuel. Like, to get across the Simpson, there's 43 litres of fuel. And then you need, on top of that, you need 17 litres of water to do it safely. I mean, some people say, oh, you don't need that much. Well, you don't need that much if everything goes right.
You don't need that much until you do.
That's right. And the second you do, then you're in deep poo. So, so generally those rides will... the tougher ones we may, but very rarely, or someone might just want to come along with us and go for a ride, drive, and we don't mind that either.
Yeah, it's so. How's that? It's funny you mentioned the maybe medical help. Watching your video, London to Sydney, how much trouble was that when you had diarrhea, basically?
That was it was quite funny. I picked it up in the Ukraine and I got rid of it. And then in China, I had a horrific bout of diarrhea. I've never had anything like it. And I started getting, I don't know if when you have really bad diarrhea and your electrolytes go, you get rigor, which brings your muscles, your hand, like you go like that, you get locked because of and I was right on the verge of doing that. And I was a bit reluctant to go to, and we were way in the far west of China, right on the border of Kyrgyzstan. And I was worried about the medical skills there. And, but they gave me they gave me Western medicine and gave me a drip. And I think they put 3 litres into me or something. But they also had Chinese medicine, and that was amazing stuff. These little vials are about as big as your finger.
Yeah, I remember seeing them. Yeah.
Yeah, and just sipping on them. And the funny thing was, like, I hadn't passed the stool for days. And the first one came out, it was gold. And I thought I was learning how to shit gold. It was gold and shiny. And I went, what the hell?
What was in that bottle?
I don't know what was on that bottle. The funny thing was, it did taste metallic. And I thought, God, I'm like the goose that laid the golden egg.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, so fortunately, I haven't been sick too many times. Just a bit of diarrhea twice. Been lucky.
What was there much trouble with the language barrier when you're trying to explain medical symptoms, right?
No, it's funny, you can, it's funny, like, it's very, you think about the sign language. I can't do it because you can't see the whole thing, but you go, stick your finger in your bum. I think everyone, and I think everyone gets the universal language.
But Bonnie and I were traveling in Corsica, and she had this nasal infection thing going on for about a week, I think, at that point. And we finally had to take her to a doctor. It was an ear infection, nasal infection, and Corsica's French, and how much the French embraced their own language.
Yeah.
So no one spoke English, and being Canadian, we speak en français, so a tiny bit of French. Not enough to describe medical symptoms, but like you said, it's a bunch of sign language, and we cut through it.
I had a hilarious experience in France. There was another guy, Darren, an English guy, and the French hate English. They just hate English. They not too fond of Americans either, but they like Australians because we played a pivotal role in some of battles in the First World War, and it's permeated the small country towns. But anyway, we landed in this place, and I needed soap. And I went down into the supermarket, and I'm looking for soap, and male blindness, can't find it. And I go back up to the top to the cashier and say, look, I'd like to buy some soap, please, to wash myself. And I make these moves. She goes, huh? Like this, like, what do you mean? Soap? I don't know. And I'm going, look, wash face, put on. No, I don't know. So I went back. I thought, I just don't understand that. So anyway, I went down, found the soap, came up, put the money down. She said, oh, I see you found the soap in perfect English. I said, what'd you do? She said, I just want some fun.
We're in a restaurant in France and look at the menu. Again, we know some French, but not a lot. And we're looking at the menu, and my wife is celiac, so she has to eat gluten-free. So she has these cards made up and hands it to the waiter. It's in French. He reads it. Un moment. He goes, we're all struggling through the menu, trying to figure out something we want to order. It's all French. He comes back, hands her a menu. She opens it up. What? There's menus in English. And we looked at him. You have menus in English? You are in France. You should at least try. That's what he said.
Yeah,
all
that's
right.
exactly right.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, London to Sydney, would you do it again?
The thing, it's funny, I'd had we were supposed to take 3 months. It's going to be a long-winded answer to this, Rob. It's a good question. It was supposed to be 3 months, and my wife and I were long-term partners. And I said to her, it's not going to be longer than 3 months. And I remember the day when I walked out, and I got on the plane, and I'm thinking, I'm not getting a return flight here. Like, I have to make it back. And it hit me, to get across the world, get to London for us, we go across the Simpson Desert, we go across Australia. It takes 10 hours to get across Australia before you start heading in. And I got about halfway across, and I remember looking at the map, and I'm in the middle of the Simpson Desert, and I'd been there looking up at the jet planes going past. And I went, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And then, unfortunately, we broke down in Kathmandu, and it extended it a month. So it ended up being 4 months. And my wife, when I got back and it was all done and dusted, it was fantastic. And it was life-changing for me. It for a whole range of reasons, it changed my outlook on life. I didn't think you could change that much in your 50s, but it really fundamentally changed how I looked at life. But my wife said, don't do that to me again. That's too long away. But Darren, unfortunately, he came back and his wife had found someone else, and he went back to an empty home.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
And,
So it was a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, I generally will limit them to probably a month, probably max. But yes, it was a wonderful experience. And the funny thing is, everyone says, oh, KTM broke down. Well, every time it broke down, we found there was more adventure in the breakdowns than there is. If you're just riding it, you never interact in a way that's meaningful. Yeah, you say, oh, can I have some food? But you're not, can you help me? And you're trying to sign language. It's so much more meaningful. And out of that, we got some lovely friendships. And, one of the guys on that, the Russian guy, Renard, I went back and rode with him on the Road of Bones. So, yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Well, there's certain truisms in life, as they say, and often it's you appreciate things more when you've worked for them. And when you have things like breakdowns or bad weather or just adversity, something in there to make you work for, and you get back. And that's the things you talk about. Rob and I have talked about that many times. When you have that terrible weather, you don't talk often. You won't talk about, man, the weather is perfect, and I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's one of the.
Well, we rode through this, I don't know, this terrible downpour. I've been in snowstorms. I have the video.
It's funny you should say that. One of my most vivid memories, one of the Darren's bike had broken down, and we were going through Kazakhstan, and we had to be at the Chinese border at a certain time, and that's just inflexible. And we had to ride something like, or I had to ride, Darren was in the truck, but I think I had to ride smart riding further. I'm going to crash.
We were up high in the mountains in France on dirt roads, and we're up at this World War I. It wasn't a fortification. It was actually probably a barracks near a fortification. And here comes this little teeny tiny car up the dirt road, and we're talking a serious dirt road with some seriously large rocks on it. And out steps a 70-year-old woman, and we started talking, and her English was pretty good. And she said, "Oh, I used to come up here every year with my husband, and I so love it up here, and I so love how tranquil it is." And I'm thinking, you just drove 20 kilometers up that road in your car all by yourself. And that was the only vehicle we saw up there all day.
Yeah.
But there she was, and it's we had quite an interesting conversation.
Well, I remember that time, Rob, where we were in Corsica, I believe. We ran into that old guy. I can't remember the name of the village, but he just had to have us back to his house.
Mm-hmm.
Brought us back there, showed us pictures of him during World War II, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. He had brought out some cheese. He wanted to give us some wine, but we're on the bikes like, but I think we all, we all had like just a little taste, like a half an ounce. Like, okay, we'll have a little bit, but we have to ride a motorcycle. And it was really neat. And we're there with another couple, and the woman in the couple was kind of freaked out being in this foreign country. The guy only spoke Italian. So it must have been Sardinia. Because the guy only spoke Italian, so you had to translate for us. You don't know a ton, but you know a decent amount. And you got most of it. And Krista she was kind of freaked out being there. But then in the end, I think she was like, well, that was really neat. His wife was passed away. I think he was kind of lonely, and just, he wanted to show us his place and everything.
Yeah. And show us off to the other 15 people in the village as well.
Yeah. Look what I brought back. Yeah, and it was really neat. But it was nice that we could have the time. Had we been in a big group of people or on some type of schedule, a tighter schedule, we couldn't have done that. But we had all the time, all day to horse around there, and it was great.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had some wonderful experiences like that. The tension between filming a documentary, that like, if there's just two of you, it's very difficult to get a dynamic. It's very challenging, and it's hard filming too. So it's much better. Like our best adventures are when we got 4, maybe 5. That's when it really becomes interesting, and the dynamic in the group.
And how is it filming in some of these countries, especially some of the areas you're going into? The technology isn't necessarily everywhere around them like it is with us, but at the same time, I guess the cameras are so small. Dude, is it okay? Or do they get intimidated?
Well, I think the first thing to do is just keep away from borders, and don't film any borders. I never film police or military or anything like that. I generally ask people if I'm going to film them, and say, "Is this okay?" In some places, I was conscious. I won't say what countries, but I was conscious there were a couple of countries there where we were being surveilled. Where we were, it was very unique, and I remember a number of some of those countries are sectorized, and you'll come into a place, and the policeman or the military personnel on the thing will say, "We've never seen Westerners here," and there was a couple of places we've been like that, and in those areas, I'm pretty confident we were being surveilled. So I was really, really careful on what we did. That's my main thing, is just get permission and do it low key. Keep a small camera. Don't have something big. Yeah. And you got to be careful. You got to know the rules too. I mean, for example, in India, if you're in Kashmir, I mean, you can't get into Kashmir at the moment. That's the far northern part of India. bordering on China. It's just been a bit of conflict up there in recent months. But you can't have a satellite.
Yeah, that's right, because they're fighting over like the borderlands there.
Yeah, well, it's a strange fight. It just doesn't make sense to me. But having been up there, but yeah, you can't have a satellite phone in Kashmir unless it's registered with the government. So you could find yourself in serious problem just having a satellite phone.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my lovely wife. She's bringing me another coffee as I slowly die. Thanks, Pussycat.
Hi, people.
Oh, shit. It's all right. Yeah, and then the other one is drones. There's 2 Australians at the moment who are, I think they're still detained. I hope they're not.
Oh, really? Banged up?
Banged up in an Iranian prison for flying a drone in an area that they didn't know was military. You know, they just don't know. They're YouTubers and they've got a beautiful vlog. I'm not sure if they're out yet. So drones are another one you've got to be really, really careful of. And, you know, I know a number of international travellers at the moment who are using those, and I say to them, you need to be really careful. And they say, oh, it's all right, I'll just hide it in my bag. I say, if the police search you and find a drone when you're going into their country and you've got a certain passport, it's just unnecessary risk, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because I may be mistaken, but I'm thinking an Iranian prison is not the greatest place in the world to be.
No, it's not the Hilton Hotel.
No. If you had to pick a prison to be in the world, that probably isn't in the top 10.
No. No, that's on the bottom rung.
And that's the thing, I guess, what you mentioned drones. They are so popular now. A lot of the videographers use it, and I get why. You can get some just beautiful images from there. You really see the landscape really well, but I guess that's the negative to it, especially in a lot of these countries where, let's face it, some of our countries are spying on different countries, and they don't know you. They don't know you from a hole in the ground.
No, you got to be really and read up on those things before you go. Like, yeah, it's just not worth the risk.
Mm-hmm. So how long do you spend editing after, like if you put out a 1 hour video, how much time are you doing post?
Yeah, a 1 hour video. I do it like knitting, you know, it's like my hobby. So I'll do a couple of hours after, I'll do a couple of hours after dinner, and I might do that for a week and a half, or then I might just give it a big nudge. It's funny how I do it though. Like a lot of people might have a storyboard or something like that. What I do first is know my vision. So go back and just browse through it really quickly, and then understand what sort of story I'm going to tell. Well, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm doing a bike review or a test or a
and does that change? Do you sometimes go out with the vision? We're going to tell this story, but then after looking at the coverage, saying that just didn't work out that way?
Yeah. Like yesterday, we were filming, and there was this beautiful place to film, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get the shot I wanted because the light was changing all the time, and I just had to rejig things. Mm-hmm. But with the documentaries, in many ways, it's easier because when we're on the way. God, this cough's giving me the shits. It just won't let me go. But when we're on the way, like we're constructing the stories. So when I get home, I go, okay, I shot that with that camera, that with that camera, that with that camera, and I just put it all into one timeline in one go. And then work out the story and work out where I need narrative, work out where the sound's not good, work out where the vision's not good, and meld it that way. Because at the end of the day, you know, documentaries are 50% sound, and they're 50% sound. Like you must be able to tell the story so people can literally turn off their screen and listen to it. And I'm learning that more and more. So that's why I sometimes use music just to cover wind noise, just to make sure I don't have wind noise, particularly if I'm using GoPros at speed. There's no point. Yeah. So yeah, it's mixed. I'm getting better at it because I'm shooting more efficiently at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So I'm not spending as much time shooting. I know what I want. Yeah. Instead of having a GoPro on my head for an hour, I'll just go quick on, maximum probably a minute. and then turn it off.
Yeah, I've said that with the video. I've done a few low YouTube, absolutely nothing like what you're doing, but more of just vacation stuff. But
Yeah.
it seems to be me that often, like, I used to think a minute was lots. Now remember, I'm not doing anything like you're doing, but a minute was lots. Now it's more like 30 seconds, 20 seconds
Yeah.
in this day and age of TikTok and everything else to keep someone's attention for more than 20 seconds at a time. It can be challenging.
Yeah, it's an interesting base, my subscriber base, because these are motorcycle adventures. Most of them are probably younger to middle age. And I'm approaching 60. I'm 60 next year. So I'm on the outer edge of my demographic in terms of my audience. And yeah, it's an interesting bunch because they've been with me for a long time. And, I probably pick up about, I don't know, I'm growing steadily. So I'm picking up about 2,000 subscribers a month now.
Wow.
And yeah, but they're true subscribers, like they're motorcycle adventurers. So yeah, they know their stuff, and so it's a good audience. But if I do anything other than motorcycle adventure, they don't want to watch it. No, go back, Dave. Get on the bikes. Don't worry about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be tough, right? There's so much content. There's so many platforms. There's we have.
I tell you the one I hate though, and Clubby, the guy I was riding with the last couple of days, he gave me a bit of stick about it. I'm going to put it in outtakes. Pardon me. And he says to me, "Now tell me, Dave, what's better, the Yamaha T700 or the KTM 790?" I must be asked that 5,000 times. and my answer has always been, there's no point in comparing. Go and ride them. Don't ask me. I'm just telling you what I experience. And it's funny, like people want, well, you tell me what you want, and yeah, that's just a bit irritating.
They want to hear it from an expert so that they can use that to support whatever it is.
Whatever their view is. Yeah.
Dave said,
yeah.
Well, what did you say?
The best adventure I've had in the last few years has been India on a little Bajaj 200 road bike.
Yeah.
That was, that's one of the most memorable trips. And I don't remember the trip in terms of I was on this shitty little 200cc bike. I just remember what I saw. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And the interest in my parallel on that is that when you are finished with a trip and you don't remember your bike, you were on the right machine. You were absolutely on the right machine for it. Because if it's not the right bike, you'll remember it. You'll remember it was too big, it was too heavy. I picked that damn thing up so many times and that my back threw out, and et cetera, et cetera. And when the machine doesn't enter into the memory, it was exactly the right tool.
It's a really good point you raised, Rob. And on this Bajaj, you just get on, you just step over and you're on it. And you're on it. and you're zipping around traffic, and it's got small handlebars. You can get between buses and trucks, and it had enough power. It was fuel injected. And yesterday I'm on this Husky 701, and it's about a similar height to the T7 and 790. You've really got to, getting on and off the bike filming, it's a real chore. It's just a slog.
Well, and it's like the right tool for the right job in a lot of ways. Often, I know you'd watch Top Gear, whatever. They like to hammer on the American cars, and you see all these sporty, the BMWs and everything else. These small little cars are all sporty and great handling and everything. And I love a great handling sporty car, but I also get that America and Canada is a big place. And if I want to drive from where I live, Thunder Bay, to say Chicago, it's 12 hours of interstate. Yeah, big old Cadillac that floats along.
Yes.
I get it. Or if you're on the motorcycle, you're on a Goldwing or you're a cruiser, they make sense. I get it. Like probably would rather fly there, but that's not the kind of riding or driving I like to do. But if I had to do that, it's a pretty good tool for it, man. I have a big honking pickup truck, and it's great on the highway. It's tons of room. And
yeah, so it's really interesting. Like I've been riding a lot of different bikes lately, and Oh, God. Yes, I've been riding a lot of bikes lately, and the T700 doesn't have the best suspension compared to the 790 or the 701. But like you say, it's great. It's a great all-purpose bike. You can do lots on it, and it's very comfortable. And yeah, of all the bikes, that one has stuck out for that very reason that you talk about. It doesn't have the best suspension. I mean, the 790 does, but it has a number of qualities about it that say, I can live with this. This is my friend. I could be on this and go anywhere. And,
A friend of mine has a KTM 690.
Yep.
Places he can go, I don't want to go on my 525 because it's a small little motocross seat, and he can drive 100K down the road and find a trail. By then, my ass has more than had it. But the trails I could go on is just an absolute chore for him on that 690. And then another friend of mine has a 350. That 350 is amazing. They're just absolutely amazing in the tight low trails. So yeah, right tool for that job.
Yeah, I still got my 690 that I rode from London to Sydney.
Any more fuel pumps?
You know what? The fuel pump that I put in it at Russia is the same fuel pump it has in it now.
Perfect.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
So from the standpoint of talking to people about different adventure rides, especially as how it's going to change them.
Yeah.
What shifted in your world from that of the little guy from Oz to holy cow, there's a world out there and here's my place in it?
As you mentioned that, do you really change your outlook in life? So like how so? Or how do you think?
I think the biggest thing is we're really dudded by mainstream news media that puts the spin on countries. Like it characterizes countries, and everyone there in that country is bad. Like China is bad. Russia is bad. Iran is crazy. There's these characterizations that are portrayed. And actually, while there may be problems with the government, when you reach down and get into the people are the same as you and I. And it doesn't matter their religion, their culture, their creed, anything, their color. What I found is that humanity has a base level of function, and it's inspiring. You can look at someone in the face from any country, and you can know whether they're cranky, happy, sad, in love. that those universal expressions, the way they move, tells you so much. And yeah, that's the thing. I think we have this. It makes us. At the end of the day, humans are mammals. We're herd animals. We like being with similar things, and we like having life similar. But then what happens, the problem with that is we get suspicious of anyone who thinks slightly different to us. And I think that's where motorcycle adventure is the beauty. The bike itself is a passport into many people's hearts. They see you on a bike, you're by yourself, they'll come up and talk to you. But in the same breath, there's this, you get to appreciate people in different cultures, and, and that always, when I see the news, I go, well, that's not how I see that country. That's not how I see it at all. And, people say, oh, aren't you scared when you go into a Muslim country, And I go, well, actually, I'm not. They're no different to us. And in fact, when we're in the middle of Kazakhstan, a Muslim family let us stay in their house. Could you imagine if two bikers stopped at the front of your house out the front and said, oh, we're having bike problems. What's the chance of you walking out there, Mike, and saying, oh, would you like to stay in one of our bedrooms for the night? Have a cup of tea.
Actually, that was something that used to make my mother crazy, was the fact that there would be all kinds of people showing up at our house or being invited in, or she'd wake up in the morning and there'd be 5 tents in the backyard. And
yeah, and this is the thing that we get from this, Rob, is a generosity of spirit. And we encourage others. I mean, we had an 8-foot German here once. And Sonia says to me, where did he come from? And I said, well, he was stuck. He's been riding around Australia. It's pouring rain. He's stuck, you know. So, yeah, I agree. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, so it fundamentally changed the way I looked at life, definitely.
So how can we present that same opportunity? I guess you are through the documentaries and through your film.
I really
presenting
try to
that
do
picture
that.
of the world to the people that don't have the opportunity to experience it firsthand, because that really is the important thing, is to get a grip of the fact that, you know, we're all bleeding red blood on the inside, and we all wake up and have the same sort of aspirations, which is make this day a little easier, make the world a little better for my kids. And,
Yeah. No, pardon me.
You do that on cue magically.
If I don't have COVID, hey, look on the bright side. If I do have COVID, you can't get it from there. Yeah, look, I really try hard in my rides to be really generous, and I can be, because all my experiences have been positive. And yeah, look, sometime there may be a time in the future where I get robbed or get something stolen, but that'll be an individual. There's robbers and bad people in every country, but but I do see, it's interesting, Rob, you see that, because I really try when I'm making those videos to have in the back of my mind people who aren't going to these places, and to see those positive interactions with different people of different cultures. So it's interesting you see that, because I really try hard to do that, because we're a better place if we walk, you know, with humility into other people's backyards, and be a bit more accepting of their beliefs and that.
And do you think it's different because you're doing it on a motorcycle and a car? If you did the same trip in a car?
It's funny, you know, in Australia, I'd have to say there's no difference. But if you're in the Ukraine or Russia on a bike that has an Austrian number plate on it, the people stop in the street and look at you, and they know they know where you've come from. And, you know, they'll raise their fist and thumbs up and try to interact with you in some of these countries. And you know, you really feel something. And then I remember saying to Darren, like, we'd get out of our motorbike gear and get into civvies, and then you just turn into nothing in some of those countries. But yeah, no, it's interesting. In Australia, no, but in other countries, yes. They know you're different, and they're interested, and they want to come up and talk to you and interact. And I just love that. I think it's great.
Yeah. And that's the one thing about having the travel experience that becomes quite obvious after you've been around a little bit, is that the people are really and truly curious, and they are really and truly open-minded.
Yeah.
And we ought to be too.
Yeah.
You know, on an individual basis, hey, what's going on down there? Hey, I've got to go see what's happening over there.
I found it really difficult. You know, I've just retired from my job, but I found it really difficult in the last few months, this emerging political correctness, that you can't have a different view without showing aggression, that you can't just say, okay, that's what that person thinks, that's interesting, that may be right or wrong, I don't know, but it doesn't fit with, you know, and have a discussion with them, but we have to fight them. And there's this aggression emerging, and you see it in America. You not only see it in America.
I don't have any idea where any of that stuff is coming from at all, Dave. No.
But it's not only in America. I can assure you, it's happening in our country, and we don't have a political event coming up shortly, but it's coming. It's happening everywhere, and it's you know, this aggressive shout down anyone's view as theirs to be different, and I'm having difficulty adapting to that.
Yeah, I've often said that my father's definitely like a, not right wing, but on the right. I'm in the middle, maybe left, but yeah, we can totally disagree on many things. We don't have to agree on everything. It's probably good we don't, you know, we all don't have to share the same opinion. We can argue about stuff, and in the end, neither one knows we can't predict the future, so we don't know who's going to be correct. In 5 years from now, you could say, hey, you know what, Dad, you're 100% correct on that. Or like usual, he could say, I was right. So
Yeah, but and it's
once
like,
once people stop talking about it and only argue about it, then there is no middle ground, and nobody wins,
yeah, for sure.
because it turns into I've got to get one up now, but that also means you're going to get one up later, and that's just the way it works, and that's not healthy for anyone. But
and I think,
yeah, that's
I think that's one of the things I try to do in the movies is, you know, for example, the I think you call them rednecks. We have a different name, but those people, you know, ultra engine sorts of guys, you know, guys and cars and bikes and guns and all that sort of stuff. They kind of sit to the right, in our country anyway. I'm pretty sure they do in yours, to a degree. And what I'm trying to do is to reach into that group in my own country and just say, hey, he's a Muslim family who let us stay in their house. That's a big deal. Like, all Muslims aren't bad, you know, like,
right.
Yeah.
And then just through the vision itself and watching the interactions, they see these interactions because they're never going to experience them themselves. You know, all they got is the news, the nightly news. And yeah, it's a very good point. That's my little contribution to world peace.
to humanize others, and that's really important. It really is. And that's where when the polish gets too big, that stuff disappears. You know, when the production is too polished and too big, that disappears, because it really does take you and me, or you and him or her, to make that happen. It has to happen on that level, because that's really what makes the world go round.
Yeah.
And it's the politicians that can order 1 million of us to go attack another 1 million of us, but given our druthers, we'd probably prefer to sit down and have a beer.
Yeah, well, the First World War, they had it right when the Germans and the English and Australians used to play soccer Christmas Day, you know, and then get back in the trenches and shoot. And you must have been asking yourself, why are we shooting each other? We just had a game of soccer, you know. Crazy stuff. I might be a closet pacifist.
Wait till your Republican friends find out.
No, that's it. I'm on trouble. I might lose half my subscribers to this.
Oh man. So where have you not gone that you want to go?
Northwest of America, Seattle, and down through, all through there, just the northwest of America. Busting a gut to get there. My plans prior COVID, I'd successfully got sponsorship with actually a company in America called Climb, and Yamaha Australia are going to give us 4 bikes, and we're going to ride from Sydney to Mount Everest. But lo and behold, I literally should have been on the way now to that. So that got bagged with COVID, and we lost the sponsorship. I'll just ask, excuse me, Simon, can you get me another hot drink? It's just I won't be able to get away from this.
For a little bit of rye in there.
So that got curtailed. The other things I want to do, I'm very keen to get back into Europe with and do the Trans-European Trail. It's called the TET, and there's worth looking at if people want something harder core. But I'm happy to go on tours as well and film on tours. And I've done a bit of that in the past. So I don't mind going on organised tours, because you know, when you're time poor, you get it all sorted for you, and you just got to jump on the bike and enjoy it. And I'm a strong supporter of that. In fact, I do it quite frequently in Australia. We have these rides that are organised with tour, and they give you a GPS route, and you just follow the GPS line, and at the end of the day you meet up, and they just make sure you've checked out and checked in at the end of the day.
That's a great way to do that, isn't it, Rob?
So Yeah, so that was interesting. So I'd like to go to Iceland. Like to do more riding, surprisingly, in England.
Oh yeah, England's got some great riding, some great places.
South America does still interest me, and but you know, like as I'm approaching 60, for me, I've got this window of fitness, and I just hope COVID doesn't steal that from me. Hopefully it doesn't. I hope we do get a vaccine that works, and we can get on with our lives again. Yeah, but it certainly stuffed the motorcycle touring industry. Gee, it's terrible.
It's beyond terrible. It's dead.
It's just annihilated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm sitting here for the first time in 35 years in Western New York in the summertime.
Oh wow, yeah.
But it certainly sounds like there's 4 or 5 different companies that are close to vaccine that you hope that 1 or 2 of them is going to work.
Yeah, Mike, I hate to burst your bubble, but I had a flu vaccine this year. And so I went to the doctor, and I've never had the flu for 15 years. And I said to the doctor, I had the flu vaccine. She says, well, you've got a different strain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I hope this coronavirus doesn't have different strains. Or life's going to be.
that's the problem. The flu, there's so many different strains. Whereas right now, I guess there's only one strain. But yeah, hey, don't take away what little hope I have. I want to go to Norway next.
But having said that, I mean, Australia, thank God I'm in Australia, and thank God you guys are in America, because there's truckloads of trails and adventure to have in your country. The scenery is stunning, you know.
But in both places, it's pretty far apart. That's the one dilemma. That's a lot of miles. I was out for a short ride today and thought, boy, there's a lot of traffic, and boy, this is not really interesting riding around here. And
But what about in the Northwest, up in the North?
Well, there is. My stomping grounds are the Alps, and you know, that's where I do lap after lap after lap after lap after lap, and probably have 300,000 miles in the Alps.
I can understand that. I can understand that.
And to ride here, where I've actually got to get on the bike and ride it for 2 hours before the roads get at all interesting. And then they're okay. The traffic's not bad, but it ain't the Alps.
How far would it take you, Rob, to get up like around Lake Placid area? Is that more like 4 or 5 hours?
5 hours, yeah, 5 hours to up in that area. But if we go south into Pennsylvania and Ohio, there's good riding. There is some good riding here, and there's some very, very pretty places. But it isn't the same. And I don't have any machinery here because I'm not here all summer. So I'm now riding a 1975 R90/6. Because I haven't had a street bike in the States forever. So
for me, where I live, the street riding is there's not much. Where I live, we're fairly isolated here, so there's not much roads. There's good dirt biking, so at least there's that. We're actually endless dirt biking, but
so, but hey, here we are. We're just talking about the new adventures, and that's great. So we'll have to get you over to some of the places that I know in the Alps.
Yeah, I would be there in a heartbeat. Yeah, definitely. And I'm up for anything. It's just a matter of as soon as the COVID gets over, I'll be up for anything. So
how important are your sponsors to doing all your tours and shows?
Yeah, they're more, to me, they're more long-term relationships, like Harold from Giant Loop in Bend, Oregon. You know, he picked us up on Facebook before when we started preparing for London to Sydney. So Harold's been with us for 12 years, and he's ridden with me, and we get on really well. And he's probably one of the first people I'd visit if I came over to America. Adventure Moto and Adventure Spec there, motorcycle accessory companies, one in England, one in Australia. And they've been, they're just long-term relationships that have been great. And the final one is Rally Raid Products, and they were the ones who set up my 690, but I continue to do development work with them on the T700 and particularly with the suspension on that and other things. I mean, we've filmed their rally raid reviews. Their rally raid modifications on the BMW 310 and the Honda CB500. So I just like those relationships. It's not lucrative, Mike. I'll tell you that now. Let's be clear on this. As my wife says, don't think this is your day job.
Exactly.
And then in addition to that, I derive some income from that certainly gets pocket money for adventures through the YouTube, just advertising on YouTube, and that's reasonable. And then the third way of deriving income from this is from making when Yamaha, or particularly Yamaha or KTM generally hire me to make stuff a little bit more professional. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But like so many things, this is something that you would be doing because of the passion rather than the dollars. And,
well, it's funny, as I was laying down in a creek bed yesterday, just out of the water, laying prone flat to get this shot. And I looked up at Clubby, who I was shooting, and I just said, now, there's only one reason a man nearing 60 would lay in a creek with a camera, and it's because he loves what he does. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And we do. We just love getting out and having a laugh.
Yep. I get it. That's what it's all about. And that is the beauty of what I've seen of your stuff so far, is that it shows the enthusiasm and the passion for the machinery and what we're doing, which is motorcycling on one hand and going bizarre places on the other hand. So
if I had a recommendation of anyone to watch, I reckon that my two favorites, the Himalayan motorcycle adventure, and the other one is Capricorn, Cape York motorcycle adventure, where it's up the far north end of Queensland. There'd been a cyclone through, and we've sunk more Suzuki DR400s than you could count on the way up. And those two are my favorites. They're tough to film and good fun.
Yeah, I was going a decade or so ago. I was going to go up to Cape York with a Kiwi friend of mine and an Aussie friend, until he got clotheslined by somebody that ran a cable across the trail up there.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that did him in for his riding career.
Yeah, it's lucky it didn't kill him.
Is there much trouble with wildlife when you up in the backcountry? In North America?
Yeah, well, it's funny, in this video I was shooting yesterday, for the Husky review, I just missed 2 collisions with kangaroos. You can see
how big a problem is that with kangaroos? Is that
well, it's a big problem if the kangaroo stands as high as you do when you hit it.
Yeah, it's a kangaroo-sized problem, Mike.
If the kangaroo's around your ankles, it's not that big a problem.
I guess a better question is just like, how common is that? Like at different parts of this country, there can be tons of deer or almost no deer.
Well, I'm going to start with deer. I was in New Zealand, and we were riding along, and the guy in front of me was on a KTM 500, and I saw a full-on buck. I don't know, how much would they weigh? 1,000 pounds? I don't know. They're usually 250, 300 pounds. Yeah, something like that, right? Just go straight over this guy's head.
Yeah.
In Australia, we were riding in the forest, and I saw a guy who's riding along again on a 500, and a kangaroo landed in his lap and went. I was behind him, went boing in his lap, and then went boing out. Yeah, there's times for us, wildlife. You don't want to ride in the afternoon. You don't want to ride in the evening. Mm-hmm. That's when the kangaroos start to move about. In the drought, the kangaroos tend to gravitate towards the roads to pick up seed that's come out of grain trucks.
Oh, okay.
And then what happens is the kangaroos get hit and run over. And then your next problem is these wedge-tailed eagles that come down to eat the carrion, the dead kangaroos. Yeah. Now, wedge-tailed eagles have a wingspan of about 10 to 12 feet. Wow. And to take off, they must go into the wind. And so they'll be on the ground eating in the afternoon. And I had one. I missed one. Honestly, his eye met my eye, and we're going. I don't want to hit you, and you don't want to hit me. And they got to turn, and they actually, they've got to take off heading towards you, and then bank. And so they're another thing. Goats are a problem for us. Thing called emus, which is similar to an ostrich. So it runs at about 80 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
And can be running beside you and then do a right-hand turn and run straight into you.
Yeah, because their head's only about this size of a small 5-pin bowling ball, and the brain is probably the size of a thimble.
The kangaroos, as soon as you see a kangaroo on the side of the road, and many times you don't, just get on the brakes and shave that speed off, because they do these ones, and they could be going along like that, and they just go straight into you. A lot of bikers get killed with wildlife here. Cows less so, but kangaroos, ostrich, emus, a thing called a wombat. It's like I don't know what it's like, about 3 soccer balls, maybe 4 soccer balls, just really thick thing that eats grass. So there's a lot of things that can wipe you out.
Well, as everybody knows, basically everything in Australia can kill you. Actually, even half the butterflies. It's well known.
Yeah, the snakes. But again, I mean, everyone goes on about that, but well,
you just were.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's on a motorbike at speed. Like, the sensible thing to do is to shave 20 k's off your speed.
Hey, speed is stability. The faster you go, the more stable you are.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's jump to the lightning round. So just ask you some questions. First thing that pops in your head, that would be probably your best bet.
Yep.
Okay, so riding, too hot or too cold?
Too cold.
Mud or sand?
Oh, gee, I love sand. I love both. I can't pick those. They're both that's my grounding. But if I have to pick one, mud.
Okay. Favorite racer?
Burt Munro.
Very good.
Tent or yurt?
Yurt.
Mountains or ocean?
Mountains.
Yak meat or goat meat?
Oh, goat. Love goat in Kyrgyzstan with onions.
Well, I like goat.
Beautiful.
I have lots of goat in some of the countries. Love it. Race you would like to see that you haven't?
Isle of Man.
Piece of kit you like having on the road?
Oh, gee. I'd have to say a Climb Badlands Pro jacket, and the reason I say that, it's about it just prevents fatigue. It keeps you dry. Yeah, that's got to be the kit.
Favorite motorcycle podcast other than your own? Not your podcast.
I've got to confess, I don't listen to any podcasts. I'm too busy editing. I don't listen.
We've got a suggestion.
We need to start discussing this in advance.
Fair enough.
One would be Beach's Audio Adventures.
Hang on, let's cut that out. Ask me the question again. Beach's Audio Adventures.
So finally, Dave, what's your favorite motorcycle podcast?
Beach's Motorcycle Adventures. Been listening to it for years.
Cheers, Dave.
Yeah, indeed. Salute. So cool. Good.
Perfect. It sounds like we need to get Dave on tour.
Yeah, I'm up for anything. It's just as soon as we get this vaccine and we're underway, it'd be
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's unknown as to what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. It certainly does make any planning pretty crazy.
Yeah, TBD.
Those So Rob, have you been, just before we go, have you been through? You must have, I'd say, the Smuggler's Trail from Spain into Andorra.
No,
Okay.
That area I don't know at all.
Okay.
I was in Spain once with some friends for about a week.
Okay, it's tar, dirt, and that drops into Andorra and it's tar again. It's a really interesting trail. So you do the what is it, the Alpine way, the French Alps around to Italy and through there and all that?
We do, yep. And most of the stuff that we're doing is on road with the groups that we've got. We do play around in the gravel here and there, especially on exactly the border that you're talking about. France has got a lot of great mountain roads that are still dirt.
Yeah.
And some in Italy as well. We rode it from Siena back to Florence, or from Grosseto up to Siena on dirt roads. They were the local roads, but it's dirt all the way, and it's good riding. So
I'm not impartial to tar. I don't mind tar. I loved up that Darren took me right over the top, France over Italy, Swiss, right over there we went into northern Italy and right over there. It was just amazing. Mont Blanc. We went into their stated place called Chamonix. You'd know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're familiar.
Yep. There's some good stuff, and there's some great little one-lane paved roads up in the mountains in Italy.
Oh, right. I don't know that. Yeah.
It's nothing more than a paved enduro trail when you get down to it.
Wow. I didn't know that.
There's a lot of nice stuff like that there. Really, really magical. Where you're up, and the only people that are up there are the local herders.
Yes.
And motorcyclists.
Yeah. Sounds great.
So, yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of that great interview with Mike and Rob from Beach's Motorcycle Adventures. So I just thought I'd stay on air just for a quick minute if there are any questions that any of the viewers have. There's about close to 1,300 people on air at the moment having a listen. So if there's anything you want to ask me, now's the time. Just to give you a heads up on what's on Mad TV shortly. Just completing the 701 review, and then Mad TV proper with Nosh and Nugget and Clubby returns, and then we start the KTM 390 adventure review, so the small bike, entry-level bike. So if there's any questions, ask me now or I'll conclude the video. AM said you guys should come to Romania for a long adventure trip through the Carpathians. I'd be there in a heartbeat. So going once, going twice. I'll just wait for a quick second and then I'll conclude the stream if there's no questions of me. Thanks, Dave. I'm glad you liked it. But anyway, there doesn't seem to be any questions, so I'll end the stream now. So the next thing's coming up, 701 long range review, the KTM 390 adventure in two different styles, completely fitted out for adventure and standard. Arch Davo here in Japan, great for coming along. And anyway, I hope you like that, but all the gang comes back. I've had the flu for a couple of weeks, so I really haven't been inclined to get the gang around, but we're certainly going to kick off the proper Mad TV with the magnificent 4. Alrighty, thanks mate. I'm glad you liked that, Bazza, and that'll be the end of the stream now.